This Belgian hotel has 2 Michelin keys and is regarded as Antwerp's most bougie luxury hotel. Built within a medieval hospital, it houses world-class spa facilities, 5 Michelin stars between 3 restaurants, and its own private chapel with a Rubens painting. A basic room here costs anywhere from 500 to well over €1,000 a night. We figured we would come check it out and see if it lives up to the hype. This is the Botanic Sanctuary Antwerp, and we came away with pretty mixed feelings. Antwerp is in northern Belgium, about 40 minutes north of Brussels. These days it's known for diamonds and Flemish Old Masters, but in the Middle Ages it was the economic powerhouse of the Low Countries. And it's in the Middle Ages that the story of the Botanic Sanctuary Antwerp begins. The hotel is located in the Old City, and it's an easy 20 minutes walk from the Antwerpen Centraal train station, which by the way is one of the most beautiful train stations we've seen. The entrance is tucked away, several steps away from the street, and can be easy to miss. Once you step inside and walk through the reception area, you are greeted with lush vegetation. The main lobby is a full glass-roofed atrium. It feels like you're in a greenhouse, and right away you can see why Botanic is in their name. We checked in and were offered either some champagne, water, or botanical tea. We went for the tea. So the main reason we were excited to stay here is because the Botanic Sanctuary is built on a very historic site. The oldest surviving part of the complex is the chapel, which dates back to the year 1400, and you can still visit that today. We'll show you later in the tour. The first building on the site was constructed way back in 1238 as St. Elizabeth Hospital. It no longer exists today, but at this time the area was just outside the Antwerp city walls, so it was chosen for the hospital to ensure a sort of quarantine for hospital patients. Outside, the courtyard boasts the lovely and tranquil botanical garden. This is the site of Europe's first private medicinal garden, apparently. It was established by an apothecary named Peter van Coudenberg in the 16th century in order to supply his pharmacy nearby. However, the Botanic Sanctuary Hotel itself only opened in 2022, so it's an interesting mishmash of time periods all in one place. A brand new 5-star hotel sitting inside a 700-year-old hospital site. There's also a monastery here that was built in the 17th century, and this is where our room is located for the night, so come on in. And now for the room tour. So this is our deluxe room at the Botanic Sanctuary. We were upgraded from our classic room, and our room happens to be in the monastery building. So one thing that's very confusing about this hotel is its layout. It's spread across many different buildings because it's a very old and historic site. And this building that I'm standing in right now is part of the old monastery. All the rooms here were retrofitted from back when it was used as a sleeping place for monks. The first thing when you enter on your right is the closet. So this is a pretty standard closet. This part is open, so there's no closet doors. And then in this small side cupboard is some drawers, some shelves and drawers, as well as a safe. There's also a very large tote bag here, which is free for you to use throughout your stay here. But unfortunately, you can't take it home. It will cost you €35 if you do. And there is also an ironing board here. So walking forwards, there is a full-length mirror on my left, and then we come into the main area, which is the bedroom and living area. Maybe I'll show you the bathroom first. The bathroom is behind this door. It's a very pretty bathroom. Unfortunately, there's only one single vanity, but it's a very large counter space. The amenities here are all by St. Charles Apothecary, which is not a brand I've heard of before, but they do have a boutique downstairs if you want to buy their products. The sink is very large and the water flows very smoothly and it drains fast. And then underneath the sink are all the other amenities that you might need. So we got slippers here, bathrobes, towels, hair dryer, vanity kit, shower cap, and some hand towels, and a nail file. And then behind this door is the toilet. So this toilet area is fully separated, which is quite nice. And there is a motion sensor light in there, so don't worry about it being too dark. And then over here is the shower. So Kevin does not like these open shower designs. I feel like this area might become problematic after we take a shower because there's no separation whatsoever between the shower room and the rest of the room. So unless the floor is like very slanted, I feel like water is gonna come out a little bit. But the shower is quite nice and spacious. I would say Walk With Me Tim score of like 6 people in this shower. So a pretty big area. And of course, it's a waterfall shower head, as you've come to expect from these hotels. And that's it for the bathroom. So let's take a look at the rest of this space. In this little nook is your writing desk and mini fridge, mini bar area. This writing desk is pretty small, but then again, this hotel is meant for you to relax, not to do work, I guess. There's a small drawer here with some notepad paper, a very cute postcard, and a pen, and as well as the room service breakfast menu if you want to have breakfast in bed. I haven't tested this chair yet, so let me do it now. I mean, it's a very standard stool. Probably not good for long periods of work because there's no armrest or backrest, but it's comfortable enough. And then for the minibar, so everything in the minibar is paid. There's no complimentary items, although they do have some really nice welcome amenities. So of course there's the bottles of water, but you can request as many as you want and they'll send up more. And then this is a box of what I believe is Belgian chocolates. Really looking forward to trying the famous Belgian chocolates. And then here is another box of, I think these are also chocolates, but I'm not sure. They are very, very gold color. Here is what the mini bar situation looks like. So there's a tea kettle down there, some teacups and utensils, a bottle of Bordeaux wine, and 2 jars of nuts and candies. Pretty spare mini bar actually. Over here is the fridge where you've got a few more alcoholic drinks and other beverages. And then over here is the classic Nespresso machine, as well as a box full of teas and coffees. And note that all of these are complimentary. And now we've come to the living room area. This place is really nice. I like the lighting of this room. There's 3 big windows and they're all very tall. Like, it makes this room feel really spacious and bright. It is a bit later in the day now, so it probably doesn't look too bright, but when we first came in, the lighting was really good. And over here is the little coffee table, and as part of the welcome amenities, they gave us a bottle of sparkling wine, but we asked them to change it for something non-alcoholic, so they swapped it out for a bottle of sparkling tea, which sounds amazing. Way better than the usual sparkling apple juice, so I'm really excited to try it. Here are some bottles of water that we requested, and they're absolutely massive. And there are some coffee table books, and that's about it. And finally, last but not least, is the bed. This bed looks really comfortable. It is a king-size bed. There is a small TV that runs parallel to the bed, so unfortunately it's not a great viewing angle, but it is pretty close. So you could probably still make this work. I will say it's quite a small size though for a TV. Either side of the bed are nightstands. These are very, very minimal nightstands. I wish they had a drawer or something because sometimes I like having a little bit of extra space by the bed, but these will work just fine. There's also your lighting controls. Unfortunately, no automatic curtain controls here, so you all have to raise and lower the curtains yourself.
I'm good.
It's not bad.
It's pretty bad. I'd rather sparkling apple juice. Tea should not be carbonated. This is that simple.
Although our room is quite lovely and definitely modern, I can't help feeling that the design is a bit generic. There was nothing in the room that reminded us we were in a 400-year-old heritage building. There were no callouts to the history of this place, no explanation even of the former monastery that our room was situated in, and that would turn out to be a bit of a theme throughout this entire stay. At least the turn-down amenity was quite thoughtful and unique. The Botanic Sanctuary was really leaning into its spa side here with this little wooden box which holds a signed note, sleep masks, earplugs, and a sachet of lavender. So you can definitely tell this hotel is geared towards a rest and relax kind of stay. One of the biggest selling points of the Botanic Sanctuary is its extensive spa facilities. The spa is located downstairs and it's a bit convoluted to get to. You have to walk through this beautiful underground walkway, then up a flight of stairs, then down again, before you emerge into the reception area. Once we made it through the changing rooms to the spa, we were faced with a frankly overwhelming number of steam baths, wet and dry saunas, soaking tubs, and showers. Okay, we're gonna try the steam room first.
It's only 45.
Yeah, this is the lowest temperature room. So let's start with this one.
Whoa!
Oh god.
So steep. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, it's already so hot.
Oh my god. Oh, like, breathing feels really difficult.
Bro.
Okay, I'm gonna take my phone outside because I don't think it's healthy for. Okay, now we're gonna try the Finnish sauna, which is 80 to 100 degrees. It feels okay.
Okay, if you're staying here long enough, it gets hot. It's pretty hot.
Yeah. So I think that shows the maximum amount of time that we can be staying in here. I guess for health reasons. I think that's okay. I mean, I don't think we can stay for the whole hourglass, but I think I can tolerate this. Okay, I think I lasted for about 5 minutes, which is not too bad.
Not 5 minutes.
And now let's jump into the pool. I bet it'll feel really good. There's also a clothing optional all genders sauna that is weirdly located inside the men's changing room. This was a bit surprising to us as North Americans, but it's quite normal in Europe, so just be prepared for some nudity. And here is the pool. We didn't take much footage because of other people there, but it is way more stunning in person. Speaking of the fitness center, we should go there next. The gym is quite large for a hotel gym, and it's fitted with brand new techno gym equipment. Although the pool was fairly busy throughout our stay, the gym was usually empty. There are plenty of towels, water, and fruits available. And just like the rest of the hotel, it's architecturally very beautiful. Probably one of the best views from a hotel gym that we've ever seen. Since we booked the stay using an American Express FHR credit, breakfast was already included with our rate. Breakfast is on the main floor next to the reception area in a beautiful room with high vaulted ceilings. The breakfast here is a combination of buffet and a la carte. The buffet on its own is already quite extensive and one of the best we've seen in European hotels. But then on top of that, there's also a generous a la carte menu, which you can order as many items from as you want. Some of the dishes apparently come from the Michelin starred restaurants on the property, and there's no upcharge for any of them. In terms of the variety and quality of food, I would personally rate this as probably the best breakfast we had on this whole trip, and that's a high bar considering it's up against places like the Park Hyatt Paris and Hotel 27 Amsterdam. But Kevin was not as impressed, mainly because the sheer volume of guests meant that it was quite loud and busy and you feel a bit crammed in, and also service was quite slow, actually a bit non-existent, unless you make a big effort to flag one of the staff down. One of the biggest missed opportunities of the Botanic Sanctuary, in my opinion, is that it doesn't really honor its heritage. Like, yes, every space is beautiful and you can tell they worked with the existing bones of these century-old buildings, but there's no explanation of what each building used to be, nor its place in Antwerp's history, either from any of the check-in staff or in any signs or placards throughout the hotel. When I stay in such a historic property, one of the biggest straws is finding out about its past, and this just doesn't seem like a priority for the Botanic Sanctuary Antwerp at all. We even asked the front desk if they offer any sort of property tour, which they said no, it's not something they do, but they could arrange for the concierge to give us a quick tour. And then when we asked what time would be the most convenient for the concierge, they said, oh, don't worry, any time during the day is fine. But when we went down the next day at our prearranged time right after breakfast, Not only had the concierge not been informed of our request, but the front desk staff had changed and they had no idea what we were talking about. This type of miscommunication was quite typical of our entire stay. It felt like different parts of the hotel didn't talk to each other, and there was no handoff between employees. This is what makes me puzzled about the Botanic Sanctuary's 2 Michelin key status, because while the hard product is amazing, beautiful, comfortable, and modern, it feels like the soft product isn't very polished for a 5-star property. After the communication failure with the front desk, we decided to go to the concierge directly and ask him for a tour. Luckily, the head concierge, Antoine, had a little bit of time free and he was happy to give us an impromptu tour. So let's start with the grounds first. This used to be the Elsenveld, one of the oldest hospitals in Europe, established in the 13th century and named after Saint Elizabeth, who is the patron of hospitals. In fact, even today, the building that neighbors the hotel is still a hospital called ZAS Elizabeth. The eponymous botanical garden is just in front of the hotel and it's open to the public. It's named after this guy, Peter van Coudenberg, who created the first botanic garden in this area in 1548. Unfortunately, his garden was destroyed about 40 years later during the siege of Antwerp, and this current version dates back to the 1800s. There is actually a second garden on site as well, which is the Hertog Jan herbal garden used by the restaurant to plant herbs for its dishes. In the 15th century, a monastery was built. This used to be the cloisters of the old monastery, and from which you can see the twin spires of St. Joris-Kerk or St. George Church. This chapel that forms the monastery complex is actually the oldest building on site. You can even see memorials on the walls for a few of the nuns that used to live and work here. And this is the inside of the chapel. The art in the chapel comes from all different time periods, but the oldest on display is this Madonna and Child from the 1500s. But one of the coolest, which we would never have known about if we hadn't been told, is that the panels in this triptych rotate, and on the reverse is an original painting by Peter Paul Rubens. Antoine also showed us the truly oldest part of the chapel, which is hidden behind the main altar, and it's a wooden reliquary that was literally made when the chapel itself was constructed, so over 600 years old. Every part of the hotel we're showing you in this video is accessible to all guests, and it can be rented out for events. Apparently, one of the paintings in the chapel was even damaged during one of these events when a drunk guest threw a bottle right through the canvas. Antoine was incredibly knowledgeable about every part of the hotel, and this tour, although he said it's not something he always has time for, was one of the highlights of our stay. I really wish that the Botanic Sanctuary offered an official tour for guests to learn more about the history of where they're staying, because this hotel is sort of a Frankenstein of a bunch of different old buildings. It has quite a weird layout with rooms, restaurants, and event spaces scattered through a bunch of different buildings, and it's pretty confusing to explore on your own. A tour would be great to help tie it all together and provide more context to the stay. The property has multiple Michelin-starred restaurants on site, however, only one of them is actually owned by the hotel. So if you have a property credit to use like we did, the only restaurant you can use it at is at Henry's Bar and Bistro. This is the most casual option on the property, but it's still quite a fancy and intimate atmosphere. The bar is part of the Dom Perignon Society. During our property tour, the concierge also showed us their underground wine cellar. During the day, this lounge area is nice and quiet with lots of seating available, but at night it's pretty bumpin'. If you walk through the lounge to the end, you will arrive at the bistro section, which serves lunch and dinner. An entree here will run you from 39 to 58 euros, and tap water is charged at 4 euros per person. The menu is classic French Belgian cuisine with dishes like sole meunier, sweetbreads, pheasant, and hare. The complimentary bread comes with a custom stamped butter, and you can also get more bread and butter from the waiter at any time. I ordered the turbot, which was well cooked. However, I didn't like the sauce that it came with. It was a bit cloying. Kevin ordered the seared foie gras, which he absolutely loved, no notes. And we also shared a potato puree, which was pretty good, but nothing mind-blowing. Overall, we had an enjoyable dinner here, and the service was prompt and polite. But unless you have a food credit that you need to use, I'd probably recommend you check out one of the other dining options nearby. There are several fine dining restaurants scattered around the hotel courtyard, such as Hertog Jan, Fine Fleur, 1238, and Bar Boulot. As mentioned earlier, I believe 3 of these restaurants have Michelin stars. Another food option you have at the hotel is their high tea, which we didn't try but looks visually stunning. We have checked out of our room at the Botanic Sanctuary Antwerp, and we just wanted to give you some thoughts on our one-night stay and whether we think it's worth paying a night to stay here.
So for context, we booked it about maybe a month and a half out for a stay in early November. We paid $550 and one of the reasons why we booked it was because we were able to take advantage of the $300 FHR credit. So out of pocket we paid $250, and I think for that price for the $250, I think it was a pretty good deal because we also get the $100 property credit. But I would like to evaluate it as a $550 or a $1,000 hotel actually, because depending on when you book, this hotel can be quite costly. First impressions when we walk into Botanic Sanctuary, it's pretty amazing. Like, it's like you walk into this massive garden with historic buildings that are renovated and new, and they feel great, and it's super open, it's super airy. Just the motif of flowers always hits you everywhere you turn, and I think that was super nice. And coming from Paris, where hotels felt relatively small, being in the Botanic Sanctuary felt very freeing. But with that being said, check-in was a mixed bag. Staff was friendly, but it could be a bit of understaffing where like we checked in, but then we were waiting for our room key, which was weird because the room was already ready.
So what happened is like we checked in and then we thought we were just gonna get the room key and go up. But then the lady was like, do you want some welcome drinks? We have like water, champagne, or a botanic tea. So we were like, okay, sure. Yeah, we're pretty thirsty from the train ride. So they got us to sit down on one of the lobby sofas and we waited for our tea for a bit. And then after we got the tea, it's like they just forgot about us.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not like one of those Vegas casinos where there's like a billion people lining up. Like it's like a quiet, small place. Like everyone sees you, like you see everybody. It was like literally like 10 minutes we're just waiting there after we finished our drink. Like, where's our keys? Because the room was already ready. We're not waiting for the room. But anyway, that was a rough start. And then the roughness continues, I guess. So this hotel is super pretty and it's very historic. It has lots of buildings, which you would have seen before as we talked to you guys through. But upon check-in, you're not actually given any information at all. We were led to our room, which was right next to 2 elevators, a staff elevator and the regular like guest elevator. Our room was facing, I guess, the trash route. So in the morning, we were woken by hella glass bottles being like clinking like into the trash truck. But again, that's not exactly something that the hotel can improve because it's just the room layout and somebody has to get that room. So that part I can understand. The service part is really where I had issue with. So the check-in was 1, and then 2 is you guys would have seen already how big and how many buildings this hotel consists of. So essentially your check-in process is they lead you to your room and then they leave you. We were not told where anything was. We were not told where breakfast was. We were not told where gym was. We were not told where the spa was. We're also not told any information about any of the buildings or how to get anywhere. This massive property with a really weird layout, a bunch of different elevators that go to different places, and they were not proactive in explaining any of that.
While it was fun to explore the property on our own and kind of get lost in all the different buildings, we do wish there was a more cohesive explanation. We were fortunate enough to get a tour from the concierge, although the front desk very emphatically told us that this is not something they usually do, which makes me question why. Like yeah, like it's such a beautiful historic property and there are so many remnants of the old medieval monastery and hospital. It was really fascinating, even for Kevin, who dislikes museums and like historical stuff.
It's just cool. Like, it's cool to be in the presence of those things. I just don't like to line up 10 hours for it.
Yeah, well, exactly. So we think it's really a missed opportunity for the hotel here to not provide any kind of tour or information about this amazing property that you're staying in.
Yeah, because they should be proud of what they have. They went into so much effort to like preserve all those things and like use them for certain stuff, but like they don't tell the guests about it. The check-in experience felt like, oh, you're just a guest arrives at a garden and then you're like, okay, you can go to your room now, bye. Like there's so much more to explore, as you guys saw already. So I mean, I don't think we need to harp on this anymore, but yeah, so like that part was a miss. And then like Kelly did say that like, we did get a tour from the concierge, except this part was also a service issue. The first day after we checked in, we asked to see if we can get a tour of the property and learn about everything. So they said like, okay, we can schedule it anytime we want, because we were like, oh, anytime the concierge is free, we're happy to go. But they're like, okay, no, it's fine. They said that you can do anytime. Okay, so we're like, okay, anytime. Then, so we're like, okay, let's do it tomorrow morning after breakfast. So tomorrow morning after breakfast, we went to the front desk. We're like, okay, we finished breakfast. Can we do our tour now? And they're like, oh, well, no, the concierge is not here. Well, then what the fuck do you mean by you can do it anytime? The concierge is not here.
The second morning, like we spoke to different staff and they seemed completely clueless. I think there's just not very great communication between the different employees.
It's bewildering to me how a hotel of this caliber, it has 2 Michelin keys, makes such a simple miscommunication issue. Like, not only did they tell the guests the wrong information, the next morning it's like they don't understand what happened yesterday. And it's no fault of the concierge because he's a busy man, but in the morning the front desk associates were also like, oh well, you need to wait for the concierge to come in, but also you need to see when he's free, which is just like completely different to what we expected. Like if we knew that it was this hard, then we would have been fine to take it when the concierge was free, which is what we proposed in the first place.
So moving on to the positives, the room itself, as you've seen from the room tour, is quite beautiful. This is a really newly renovated hotel and it's just a very comfortable room. The service within the room by housekeeping was really good. They were always happy to provide more water. They did a turn down with like a really beautiful little box of earplugs, sleeping masks, and other amenities. So those were really positives, and the bed was really comfortable. Except for getting woken up early by the garbage truck, we had no issues sleeping through the night.
I'm not the biggest fan of the room because of the bathroom layout. I hate doors that don't close because, as we expected, the floor got hella wet because, you know, there's no door. But yeah, it was okay. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was like a cool modern vibe. And then moving on to the spa, the fitness facility, both of these are the highlights of the hotel. The fitness center is super modern. It has tons of equipment, all techno gym. It's located in a super beautiful part of the hotel, perched on top of the spa and the pool. So the spa consists of 1 lap pool, 1 medium temperature jacuzzi, and like 6 different saunas, I guess, all ranging in temperatures, like going from like relatively normal to like the finished one, which is like 80 to 100 degrees or something. And there was 2 experience showers.
I think it's definitely worth trying out, especially because this hotel prides itself on being such a spa and health-oriented property. So let's move on to the food next. The breakfast selection here is quite impressive. Not only do you have a decently sized breakfast buffet where the food was quite high quality, but you also got a pretty extensive a la carte menu, and some of the dishes were from the nearby Michelin star restaurants. Although again, the service was a bit lacking. It's probably an issue of understaffing again because it's a really big breakfast room and there were quite a few guests dining there already, so I feel like the servers were probably not enough to handle all the different tables eating at the same time. And then we also did try Henry's Bistro. This is their in-house hotel restaurant. We thought the food here was pretty good, although pricey. Not sure I would go out of my way to eat here, but it was decent. And unfortunately, we didn't have time to try any of the Michelin star restaurants nearby, although, well, you know, they have Michelin stars, so I think they're probably pretty good. And finally, just to wrap it up, do we think this stay is worth the ticket price of $561?
I think it's worth going if you're into spa, fitness, pools, and if you're interested in trying a bunch of Michelin star restaurants together. Those are the highlights of the hotel. And if you're into staying at kind of a historical property, and be sure to ask for a tour because again, I don't know why they don't do it. But then I think it's worth going, especially if you can find a relatively good rate. I would say $550, $560 US dollars is okay for one night. But once you start pushing the $1,000 mark, I wouldn't unless the service drastically changes.
So that was how our stay went. Let us know if you've stayed or want to stay at the Botanic Sanctuary Antwerp, and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching this review, and please stay tuned for more hotel reviews.